Welcome everyone to another edition of the Comic Review. My name is Eric, and today we are honoring the passing of a great man, a wonderful man, some would even say a Superman. That's right, today we're going to be looking at Part 8 of the Final Days of Superman in Superman number 52. It's too warm to have that jacket on. So, as I said, today we are going to be looking at Superman number 52. It is the final days of Superman, literally the last day of Superman. This video, because of various circumstances and whatnot, primarily which, the birth of my son, wasn't able to get to reviews very quickly this week. Even though this was a big week, we had Superman 52 come out today, which I'm sure, as a lot of people know by this point, spoilers on. If you hadn't been watching the video already. Today was Superman 52. It was the apparent death of the new 52 Superman. We also had DC Rebirth number 1, or just DC Rebirth, I guess, come out that deals with a little bit of the aftermath of that, as well as a lot of other revelations, which we'll get to in another video. Today was also the 50th issue of Justice League, the ending of the Darkseid War. That series obviously takes place before this and before this whole entire series, because of revelations that lead into this part right here. But this episode here, we're just going to be completely dealing with Superman number 52, the final part to Final Days of Superman. So let's go ahead and dive into the issue and take a look at Superman's final battle. So this issue picks up right where the last part left off. We've got Superman and Denny Swan, the imposter Superman, up in the sky, battling it out. You can't even see anything around them just because the solar flare energy that Denny is exhibiting is just so great. I really, more than any other part to this entire series, really loved the art in this chapter. It was realistic and extraordinary all at the same time to me. I just love it all the way through. Various parts, with the battle that is the first 20 pages of this book, or first half of this book at least, up until you get to that weird Overwatch ad and DC Batman interviews in the middle of the book, but whatever. But the art, like I said, was just stunning all the way through. So we have the first 3 or 4 pages, just this battle between Superman and Denny, both trying to convince each other of their points of view. Denny trying to convince Superman that he is the one true Superman, that he remembers his entire life. Clark trying to convince him, no, you just have these memories imprinted into you. These are not your memories. And just the battle that goes on between them. Superman kind of on the losing end of this fight, just because at this point, he is weakening. He's exhibiting. He's just exhausting all of his powers, and it's starting to very much take its toll. His complexion's starting to look green. He, even his heat vision and whatnot is just coming out as green energy now because of the kryptonite poisoning from Savage Dawn. This is a man about to just be gone. His life is almost over, but just this one last fight that he's in the middle of. He does get saved momentarily by Kara, Supergirl. She starts a battle between Denny, but she is not strong enough in her weakened state to just continue with this fight, and so she gets knocked out, and Denny's sitting there, or floating there actually. So he's looking for more challengers. He's saying, who is left to challenge me? And all of a sudden Batman just flies in with the Batwing and just mows him down. Plane crashes with Denny under it. Batman and Wonder Woman are debating whether or not that took him out or not. He just burst out of the ground. He's about to go and take out Wonder Woman and Batman, and then all of a sudden Clark just rockets in, grabs him, and starts to float him out into the atmosphere. He's trying to get him out into space, safe away from everyone on the planet, but he can't do it. He's starting to fall farther down. But then out of nowhere, because he was hanging out in his own Fortress of Solitude, pre-52, pre-Flashpoint Superman flies out and helps Clark get Denny out of Earth's atmosphere, get him into space. Clark keeps on telling him, no, you have to go away, I've got a plan. And pre-Flashpoint Clark is saying, no, I'm part of this plan now, we're going to stop this, because that's the hero he is, same as New 52 Clark. New 52 Clark then just pushes him away, saying, basically, you need to be here. I don't know who you are, though you kind of have a feeling that he kind of gets who this guy is somehow, but he basically tells Pre-Flashpoint Clark, I don't know who you are, but the world is going to need you. Basically recognizing, okay, you are essentially Superman. The world's going to need someone to replace me. So he gets him out of harm's way. He then gets Denny to basically shoot off the solar flare. Clark then absorbs the energy, and massive explosions all in the sky. Denny gets taken out. Pretty sure he gets killed up there. I'm not sure. I don't think. Yeah, a body doesn't come back. The only body that comes back down is New 52 Clark. So New 52 Clark is falling. Pre-Flashpoint Clark catches him in the air. They float down, and this is where the last touching moment, the last goodbye from New 52 Clark happens. During the explosion scene, Lois is arriving on the helicopter that she ordered, I believe, in the last issue. Randomly, Lana Lang and John Henry Irons show up as well. Steel shows up to the fight. So they're in the area when the blast goes off, which we'll kind of talk about here in a little bit. But it gives Clark the chance to say his goodbyes to all of his friends. He tells Lana goodbye. He tells Lois that she has to be able to write the book about him or write the article about him, which she agrees to. Tells Kara to basically you're the one replacing me in a way. Same to John Henry, which is kind of interesting because Steel did take up the mantle essentially as Superman whenever he died pre-Flashpoint. He then also says goodbye to Batman, who basically says that it was an honor to serve with him, to work with him all those years. Mutual respect for each other is shown. And then the final goodbye to Deanna, where she basically stays with him until, I guess, he explodes. Just this big ball of green kryptonite light comes out of him, and then he's essentially turned to dust. It looks like a clay mold version of Superman on the ground with an intact cape, because as we all know, that cape is in some ways stronger than Clark from the way the emphasis that's been on his suit in early 52 stories and everything. So the cape survives. Batman looks over at Pre-Flashpoint Clark and is like, okay, well, acknowledging 52 is dead. Flashpoint, we have some questions for you, and he kind of flies off saying, we'll answer them later. I'll find you guys when it's time. After that, we get a montage of scenes from various characters kind of acknowledging that Clark is dead. This kind of puts the ending to the story in a weird place during Rebirth, just because in the middle of Rebirth, kind of all the various superheroes, not to give too much away, but Rebirth does kind of touch on this for a couple pages, where they're all kind of at the battle site. All various heroes are at the battle site of this fight, including reporters and everything. So in that story, we're kind of saying Superman may be dead, Superman's missing. In this book, no, he's dead. He's just, I don't know if the last 2 pages just take place after Rebirth and everything here takes place during Rebirth. Timetable's a little bit wonky on that, but we get to see Lex Luthor with his new Superman robot suit, various other characters, reactions. Dr. Omen, I believe, also. She's got a kind of happy face that Superman's gone. Then we get the last page with Lois writing a news article titled "Superman: A Hero's Life," where she's basically telling the story of Superman and Clark Kent. That's kind of where we're left with at the end of this storyline. The next place where this is going to go all together. There's going to be a little bit of fallout in DC Rebirth, which I highly recommend. And then after that, I believe on June 1st, there is a Superman #1 Rebirth issue, Superman Rebirth #1, starting with a whole rollout of all the new Rebirth titles. That's going to be where we're going to see how the Superman, the new Superman, or the old Superman, the pre-Flashpoint Superman, is going to basically retake the role of being Superman. So let me know what you guys think about this final issue, about this story altogether. One of the things I'm kind of curious about now that we're you know, we're in like a weird 1 week limbo of we have no Superman essentially in comics until, you know, next week. But one of the interesting things with all this story and everything is that we know, people of the world know Clark Kent and Superman were the same person, one and the same. We know that pre-Flashpoint Clark is going to be Superman in the Rebirth world, post 52 Rebirth. But we also know there's another Clark Kent. But I'm kind of curious as to how, especially with DC's big talk about legacy and getting back to the core of the character, I'm kind of curious as to how, or if they're even going to try to give Superman the Clark Kent identity back. I don't know how they're going to be able to do it unless there's enough distinguishing features of pre-Flashpoint being older than New 52 Superman that would make people think, oh, this, you know, oh, this Clark Kent's different from that Clark Kent. You know, I can't imagine the scene where Perry White goes to interview a Clark Kent and says, well, we used to have a Clark Kent here, but he ended up being Superman, but you don't, I don't think you'll be Superman. And all of a sudden Superman's flying down Metropolis again. I really hope they don't do something like that where, you know, we know he's dead, so we're going to introduce a new Superman and a new, you know, Clark Kent, and basically have people just think, oh yeah, these two guys are completely separate because of the fact that, oh, we know the guy that, you know, was pretending to be Clark Kent, or, you know, and you know that was Superman. We know he's dead, so these two guys over here, no, they can't be the same thing. We just happen to have a Clark Kent, just happen to have a new Superman just pop up out of nowhere. But they're two different guys. We believe it this time because they're two different guys. The people of the DC universe, if that is what's going to end up happening, are just so gullible. Maybe something in the story in Rebirth is going to reset that kind of. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe they're going to one more day his identity back. We'll have to see. So let me know what you guys think of this last part to the final days of Superman. What you guys think of the whole entire storyline altogether? Did you like it as a natural story progression of what had been going on in DC Comics? Do you look at it more as a editorial mandate that they kill off this Superman because they couldn't just get him to work? Are you excited for the Rebirth titles we have coming out next week on June 1st? With the new Superman, the new status quo, and everything going along with that. And make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this final part to the final days of Superman. Click somewhere on the screen. We'll have the link to the playlist for the rest of this series, so you can catch up right before we get into DC Rebirth and all the main series coming out of the Rebirth one-shot. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.